welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to handle rugby selection pressures. Now, you may be in an instance where you've had a tough time making it into the starting team or even getting onto the bench, and you're very much so in a position where you're a bit confused as to why your coaches or your team managers aren't selecting you into the starting rugby team, and why you're being excluded from getting game time minutes under your belt. Now, I've made this video to hopefully give you guys a kind of thought process and a way of approaching this unique situation, and hopefully you'll be able to learn something new. And if you're not currently in this position, you can look back at this video and understand how to approach this situation if you do end up being in a scenario where you're struggling to get selected and you want to be involved in playing for a certain team. So with that being said, guys, we're going to get into the video, but I just want to introduce the channel to you guys if you're new. So my name's Hassan, and I make videos on YouTube to help rugby players improve their skill set but also improve their knowledge. And I've chosen to do this to hopefully allow players to reach a high level of rugby. So if that's something that interests you, be sure to subscribe to the channel and support the content by either leaving a like or commenting your thoughts. And with that being said, guys, let's get into it. So you're struggling to get selected into your rugby side, and the first thing that I would recommend to any player if they were in this scenario would be to ask themselves the question why. You got to be able to do a bit of self-reflection first and foremost. I would say it's very important to think about why you are not being selected in terms of what you're doing as a player, how you are as an individual, and how both of those two things would affect the team that you're trying to get into. I think it's very much so important to talk to the people in charge, whether it's a coach, a team manager, or anyone else who is in charge of making those selection decisions. Ask them the same question. Ask them why you're not included, what it is that they're looking for, and what you need to do to improve and get your name on the team sheet. And I think it's very important to make a note of this and really use that to set goals for your future training sessions and how you're going to actually look to improve as a player and get yourself back into this starting team. So I think it's very important to understand that you need to understand kind of the viewpoint of the coaches and the selectors. You've got to realize that their job is to solve a puzzle, and the puzzle that they have in front of them is creating and selecting the team that's going to win the matches. And you got to recognize that you are just a single piece of the puzzle. Now, the coaches are looking to ultimately have the best puzzle piece that will fit the puzzle to help your team and your side win games. Now, once you understand this, it makes your job a little easier, because we've got to remember that rugby is a team sport, and it's not an individual sport where your own personal performance will affect the entire result of a game. It's how well you can use your own individual skill set combined with others, and how you integrate well within the team, which is going to dictate how well you play on the field. Are you a good communicator? Are you a good leader? Are you able to stay calm under high pressure scenarios? These are the things that the coaches are going to be thinking of, because that is ultimately what you're going to be faced as. That's what you're going to be facing if you are in this team. So it's very important just to keep that in mind, especially when you're asking your coaches these questions, because you've got to remember that the coaches want to pick everybody. They wish they could, but they can't. They've got to make tough decisions when it comes to selection, and they know that ultimately they can't please everyone. So you've got to be respectful and keep that in the back of your mind when you're asking them this question, but also be firm in the way that you are looking for constructive answers, where you receive criticism in your own game, which you can take away and ultimately use to improve your standards as a player. So I think the next thing that is very important is having your body language at an ultimate high, and keeping it very much to a high standard, because your body language and the way you perceive yourself as a person is very important to the coaches. And I would say you can use that to your advantage as a selection tool. I think it's very important that you show that you're willing to learn, show that you want to be there, and you're really engaging in everything that the coach is doing and putting towards your team, whether it's the training drills, what they're saying before or after a training session in terms of feedback or the goals you're trying to achieve in the training session, and really just acknowledging what they're saying to the point where, you know, they can actually recognize your body language and realize that, hey, this player here, they want to learn, they want to get better, and they want to be involved in this team. I think it's very important not to neglect that, guys, because I think more so than anything, the coaches want to, you know, be able to teach you and make you a better player. So if you allow them to do that, and, you know, you're almost encouraging that through your body language, it's very important. And I think a lot of coaches would agree and say that that is something that they pick up on, if not first. It's like a very key thing that a lot of players don't realize. And then the next thing is you got to start putting in performances that are very much unignorable. What do I mean by this? I mean, whether it's a case of, you know, you've been dropped from the first team to the second team, or you are just trying to prove a point, you got to be able to put in performances where the coaches are, you know, not able to turn their heads at it. Whether it's a case of, you know, you're being very much dominant with your tackles, you know, you're making very much game-changing impacts with the way you're playing and your performances, you got to do something that, you know, really turns heads and makes people talk about you. Because if you can't do that, then it's going to be very hard for you to, you know, make a statement and make a name for yourself, especially within a club environment where it's very competitive. You know, there's spots in the team sheet which are very competitive, and, you know, players are, you know, contending for these spots. So you really need to show that you're hungry for it and that you are able to, you know, perform on the pitch. Because if you can back up the talk in terms of what you want to achieve on the pitch, then you're going to be giving yourself a lot of good reasons why you should be selected. And then the next thing, and something that I've done a lot myself in the last couple of years playing rugby, is looking for constant feedback from your coaches, fellow players and captains. I think it's very important to look to seek feedback, as it's a way of improving and understanding all the weaknesses in your game. Because it's very much good and well, you know, knowing what you're good at. You may be a really good tackler, you may be a very strong ball carrier, but, you know, if your fitness isn't good or your communication isn't very good, then that might be the reasons why, you know, you're missing out on being selected, or, you know, that could be what's letting you down ultimately. So by being able to get other people's perspectives, other people's opinions on your own game, it's very invaluable, I think. And you got to make sure that once you've asked and identified these things, you got to, you know, take action on it. You can't just simply, you know, say that's well and good and understand it. You need to do something about it, because there's a saying that I like to say is nothing changes if nothing changes. So you need to recognize what needs to be improved on and have a plan on how you're going to improve that. For example, if it's fitness, you need to start, you know, increasing the amount of cardio you're doing throughout your training week. You know, look to improve on certain skills. If you're a weak kicker, do more reps on your kicking. If you're a bad passer, work on your passing, etc., etc. It's very simple if you break it down like that. But by putting in the work and consistently looking to get better, you're ultimately going to reach your goal in getting selected for the team you want. You just got to put the hours in and, you know, stay motivated. And then the final thing I want to talk about is just taking the chance of, you know, take the chance of being not selected as a way to improve and level up as a player. For me personally, there was a time where I was struggling to be selected for the first team of a certain team due to the fact that I was contending with other players who were older and viewed as more skillful. Now, this was very tough for me to take on the chin, because I'd actually been playing first team rugby in this team pretty much the whole season prior, and I was in a new dynamic where I wasn't able to, you know, adapt quick enough to, you know, stay on top of the pile for the selectors. Now, this is a thing that players can take in two ways. They can take it negatively, or they can be proactive. If you take it negatively and take it on the chin and take it personally, if anything, it's going to make you a less effective player all in all. You're going to be a worse team player. You're going to be playing worse on the field because you're giving yourself a lot of mental strain and a lot of pressure to perform, and it's ultimately going to make your rugby a lot lower quality. But if you're able to take this as an opportunity and recognize, hey, this is a chance for me to get better, for me to improve, and for me to ultimately step up to the occasion of getting selected by, you know, improving on my skills, improving on my fitness, and improving on your mindset as a player and as a person, then ultimately you're going to win either way. If you don't get selected, that's fine. There'll be more opportunities in the future, but you're still going to be able to improve as a player and as a rugby player. That's very important, because you're going to be at a higher level than you were before, and that's, you know, the ultimate goal, because it's all about self-improvement and how you can improve your own abilities and improve your own performances, to add value to a team. So hopefully that's given you guys a bit of insight and a taste of thought on how you can handle selection pressures. I hope that if any of you guys watching this video have been in a situation like this or are currently in a situation like this, you can take some pointers from this video and apply them into your own game, whether that's training sessions or in games. And if you do have any, any certain specific questions, you can always leave a comment and I can try and give you the best piece of tailored advice. But with that being said, guys, I just want to thank you for supporting the channel and showing a lot of love, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you.